The following program is suitable for general audience of any age. We would like to remind our viewers that the views expressed in this program by our participating guests are solely viewpoints of them who take part and does not reflect the views and beliefs of the Derana Media Network.
Hello and welcome to Gen XYZ, where young ambition meets real-time opportunity. Today we explore one of Sri Lanka's most powerful and future-driven industries, apparel. An industry that goes beyond manufacturing into innovation, global-scale marketing and leadership. We bring Brandix Essential Center Ratmalana here with us, and joining us is Mr. Priyanga Dasanayake, the CEO of Brandix Corporate Campus. A very warm welcome to Gen XYZ.
Thank you for having part of this program, Mamasha.
So, Mr. Priyanga, starting off our conversation, this is a very beautiful view of lush greenery. So, this doesn't feel like an office per se. This feels like more like a retreat, I would say, a best place to unleash your creative mind. So, tell us about the place and the journey of your office so far.
So this is what we call an inspiration center at Brandix. So typically when people talk about apparel, all of them are familiar with the manufacturing side of it, where you see people sitting down and sewing apparels. So that is the real money-making aspect of it. But at the same time, what you're seeing here is the front-end operation of a global apparel manufacturer. So this is where the design happens. This is where the marketing happens. In our terminology, we call it merchandising. This is where the product development part of it happens. This is where planning happens. So this is like the nerve center where it comes together. And this is where we deal with our global fashion brands that we partner with. So this is the place it happens. This is how typical centers are. So at Brandix, we have 4 such centers. So today, we're at the Ratmalana Center, Brandix Essential Center.
Yeah. So moving on forward, we had a small walk throughout our venue. So I noticed a lot of youngsters here with us. So why youngsters in the apparel industry in Sri Lanka? So why is youngsters important in such a pivotal sector?
Absolutely. Amasha, in my view, probably apparel is Sri Lanka's most globally competitive product compared to any other industry. Because we always deal with Fortune 500 and other global fashion brands, because our customers are not local, the export apparel industry. So in order to compete at that level, because our competition is always world class, we don't compete with not just another Sri Lankan apparel manufacturer, because our competition comes from all around the world, whether it could be Egypt, Southeast Asia, African region, Asian region, South Asia, where a lot of globally competitive apparel companies fight for the same business. So the people that we need to have operating in this industry needs to also be world class, and they've got to have the highest level of energy to deal with it. So which is where you see a lot of youngsters working with us, because we are always on the lookout for up and coming generation to join the industry, because the industry is in that massive transformation phase, especially adopting technology, going digital. So as a result, the kind of workforce that we need now and into the future would always be the youngsters who come with the digital native savvy people. So that's why you'll see a lot of youngsters, and a lot of them at a very early stage in their life will reach careers in traditional sense that could have taken good 15 years. They might reach some of those stages anything between 4 to 7 years. So that's the kind of industry, vibrant industry that we're part of.
Definitely. So, broadening our horizons a little bit, we talked about youngsters. So, what do you give your youngsters, particularly from Brandix, when it comes to developing professionalism, and what kind of skills that you upskill within your system?
All right. So, in any career, In our view, there are three aspects any individual should master. For whatever the chosen job role, they need to have technical skills. I mean, in this case, you're doing a professional announcing role, and that requires training. Nobody can just walk in and do that. That requires that technical training, whatever that goes with it, right? So similarly, in our industry, there are almost 200 different job roles. So whoever the person who comes on board needs to be technically equipped in terms of knowledge on that. But also what's equally important to us is their behavioral skills. When I say behavioral skills, fundamentally your ability to communicate. It's not just communication, but communicating with multicultural, multi-generational people across different countries within the organization, so on and so forth. Ability to collaborate and work, think out of the box. These are typical things that comes with the territory. So apparel industry being a globally competitive industry, what the youngsters get when they join the industry is right from the word go, from get-go, they get to experience all of this. They get into real life situations where you really deal with, you're in the deep end, right? So we groom people for that, we train people for that, but you straight away get the opportunity to play at the highest level. So that's going to sort of really expand your horizons in terms of what their capacities are. And also on the leadership front, apparel most of the time is not an industry where we look at age or hierarchy for people to take ownership and leadership. A lot of youngsters are given very responsible roles at a very young stage, and they are expected to be accountable for the delivery. So as a result, the transformation that they go through when they join an apparel company at a young age is probably a lot more intense than probably compared to most of the other industries.
Moving on to our next question, something that I'm curious about is, we talk about many industries, as you mentioned earlier, the normal traditional notions of doing a job. So moving ahead from that, what are the specialities or the benefits that you get from being a part of the apparel industry, and in particular when it comes to Brandix?
I'll talk industry in general, the export apparel industry. So there are different job roles, Amasha. If you take the role of a designer, designers, what they do is they get a chance to travel into various markets. So in this case, for Sri Lanka, as an apparel industry, majority of our markets would be the US, Europe, certain cities in Europe, because you tend to travel to those places to understand the consumer demand aspect of it, the real consumer needs. So travel is something a lot of people do get excited about. Then the second thing is when you come into the industry, as a merchandiser maybe, in those roles you get the opportunity to, like I said earlier, to deal with the most globally competitive brands. You get to work with them. Your day in life revolves around solving global level market demand problems and being part of that. And if you take a more technical role, at the end of the day, the industry is adopting smart manufacturing, digital aspect of it. You get to work on the most cutting-edge technologies and driving people to sort of lean towards those, so to speak. So this is quite a demanding industry. It's not your usual 8 to 5, in the sense not that our work timings are anything abnormal, but we work on global demand cycles. When something needs to happen, it needs to happen within that day. What that also allows you to do is, industry being large players, we're able to invest in the people development aspect of it as well. So in this industry, what you find is we work hard, but we equally play hard. When we say play hard, people get the chance to being part of, whether it's sports, various other entertainment, because this industry requires that, because it's at that global standard. So in many ways, that's why we say it's globally competitive. So employment-wise also, it's globally competitive.
Yes. So having a bird's-eye view to our platform, I would say, so you have employees working from grassroots level, starting on from the manufacturers who assemble things and to managerial level positions. So tell us about a few things to climb up the corporate ladder, and also what are the skills that are required in particular to reach that end goal?
Okay, so I'll sort of draw parallels with the industry and probably talk about this. So in the front end, which is where we are currently, like I said, there are roles when it comes to, probably you can bucket it to 4 to 5 segments, where we work on the design side of things. So typically a designer would work anything between 12 to 18 months ahead of the actual product manufacturing, because they get to work with a brand on the other side of the continent, one of the global fashion brands, to decide what happens one or two seasons ahead, the kind of product creation. So that's one type of a job. Then we also have marketing people who are merchandisers who get to work with the customer to ensure what that exact product category is, to do that demand forecasting globally, how much of products that they would sell, where would it go to, and start working on that aspect of it. Then you also have people who will work on the manufacturing side of things. Because Amasha, this is a massive industry. The volumes that we speak of, so as a company, roughly we would do about 500 million pieces of garments for a year. So all this needs to be coordinated. So this requires that massive effort of doing it. So that's where on the manufacturing side, whether it's on the garment specialist, the operation specialist, different disciplines come into play. So whatever the discipline that comes in, to answer your question, when they want to grow in their respective careers, we believe the skills that we've discussed earlier, you need to be abreast of what's happening in the industry from a technical point of view. Because no matter what we learn when we study as part of a basic course of study will not be relevant, say 5 or 6 years down the line, majority of it. And that's true for any discipline that we study. So we've got to have that knack of keeping up to date with that. And the company provides that opportunity to people in terms of keeping their technical skills sharpened. But at the same time, what is also really needed is those behavioral skills that we spoke of earlier, because that's what allows us to sort of really shine and create value in the organization. Because we're not really looking at just individually brilliant people. We always look at team people who can collaborate and work with people. And our industry is not something that individual person can achieve something end to end. It's always team effort. So when it's team effort, things like out-of-the-box thinking, communication, collaboration comes into play. So you've got to have that. What we find is sometimes people find it quite challenging because they come from the background of probably focusing on doing their thing and sticking to their thing only. So such attitudes need to change as we go along. And the other main thing that we find in terms of taking leadership is on the accountability side of it. More and more we want people to be accountable for what they do. It's not just taking responsibility, but taking accountability where you do whatever it takes to deliver what you have to, where you take that full end-to-end accountability on something. So those are some of the skills that needs to be looked at.
Definitely. So without textbook examples, entering things in a very practical scenario and a people-driven perspective is definitely important. Yes. So moving on, like how has the evolution of the Sri Lankan apparel industry has been with global standards, and why do you think that people should have the confidence, especially the youngsters, to enter this industry?
So Amasha, I think last 4 years, especially since COVID, the whole technology adoption and the digitalization fast-tracked. And as a result, now what we see is the work that we do. We still produce apparel, but there's a lot of technology infusion to it. So I'll sort of break it down into a couple of stages. So in terms of design, it's always about more and more, it's about 3D design that uses technology to create those things. Back in the day, when you create a sample, from every stage we used to create physical samples. But now things have moved on to virtual sampling of it, right? Then from there, in terms of data analytics, we use a lot in terms of looking at different predictions that happens in terms of market demand. There are companies who really focus on AI for predicting market demand. also for the current generation, something that's quite important to them and to the world at large is we're focused on sustainability, what we call ESG or environmental social governance. Because the manufacturers in countries like Sri Lanka, the brands comes to us not because we are the cheapest, because we stand by and we lead those global indexes when it comes to those aspects, environmental, social aspect of it, as well as our governance standards. So encompassing all of this industry will continue to expand, and I think the Gen Zers, they don't just want a job, right? They want to fulfill what they think is right. So these are companies that do a lot of good out there, both in terms of adopting technology and giving opportunities for people to use that technology in their day-to-day work. At the same time, fighting for a just cause. I'll give you an example. One of the key matrices that we at Brandix, what we are following is we're trying to see how best we can be energy independent, which is why long years ago we embarked on rooftop solar projects. Now roughly accounts to about 60% of our energy requirement we reproduce. So we don't want to be a burden to the environment at large. Water is very important to us because that is something in our process that's at times being used. So we want to make sure that we care for that as well. Then on the social angle, this industry by and large is expected to cater to about 320,000 people directly. Their living standards are very important to us, not just as Brandix to us, but industry at large. That's the reason why apparel manufacturers come to Sri Lanka. So we really work on creating excellent working environments to them. We also look at helping through concepts like model villages. In the vicinities that we operate factories, we actually uplift the entire environment, especially focusing on having drinking water being made available to those villages, not just to our employees. And also one of the things that we always do is we want the next generation of our apparel workers, whom we call F1 drivers, to actually do better jobs. Definitely. So we focus on education.
Definitely, Mr. Priyanka, we'll dive deep into this conversation a little bit further. But before that, we'll move on to a short commercial break. This is Gen XYZ. Welcome back. This is Gen XYZ. So change of locations, change of people. We have two value additions in our plate today. So this is Mr. Chamika Rajayakodi, Deputy General Manager of Brandix Corporate Campus. And joining us, Miss Kayasha Sirivardhan, Head of Marketing, Brandix Corporate Campus. And of course, Mr. Priyanka Dasanayake, whom we had an insightful conversation with in our initial segment. So, an interesting location, a library within BCC. So, Mr. Priyanka, to start off conversation with, what was initially BCC about? From where did the thought come from, and how has it evolved?
I think our group CEO, Mr. Ashraf Omar, almost 30 years ago saw this gap in the market because for the apparel manufacturing industry, there weren't any significant educational service providers. So that was the gap that he saw back then. So in 1996, he conceptualized, back then it was Phoenix College of Clothing Technology. So since then, we've evolved over the last, so this year is the 30th year that we're celebrating. And we've evolved our programs to cater to the needs of the apparel manufacturing industry. So that's the story.
So, curious question, Mr. Chamika. So, what are the courses you normally offer So you mentioned about diplomas and then practical training when it comes to internships. So what kind of course content do you have within here?
So if you look at our programs can be divided into two categories. We have the part-time programs and the full-time programs. I'll start with the part-time programs. So part-time programs are predominantly dedicated towards the folks who are working in the industry. Okay. So we have a program in English medium, more towards the executives, and then we have a program in Sinhala medium, which is dedicated towards more the associate level, the staff category. Okay, so these programs are run on Sundays and basically and virtual. Anyone who, whether you are in Sri Lanka, and we have people joining outside of Sri Lanka as well, they can go through these content. This is people who are with the industry experience are going through these programs. Then we have our full-time programs. Full-time programs, again, two. We have one advanced diploma in fashion apparel textiles, which is our signature program. This is a 24-month program where we take them through from the start to the end, all the functions, all the entire value chain of the apparel industry.
Right, so an hands-on experience to the practical exposure as well as the knowledge of the book.
This is a skill. This is an industry where we really believe in skill. So we, as an institute, we believe in giving that skill as well. And that skill comes from that industry exposure, working in the industry. And the second diploma is our diploma in fashion design. This is our latest one. And again, if you aspire to become an entrepreneur, if you want to become a fashion designer, this is the program to be. Again, 24-month program, pretty much hands-on, and if you have that design neck, that's a program.
Right, so how do you actually, what are the requirements that you need to be a part of these programs, and what are the newest entry levels which you can enter?
Just if you have gone through your A-levels, and if you are through from your A-levels, that's all.
Right, interesting. So a valuable insight to our Gen Z audience, because we have many youngsters watching this program. So for them, that's a valuable thing which we can progress with knowledge and with practical exposure. So apart from that, an industry aligned holistic approach you give. So when it comes to Ms. Kayasha Sirivardhan, so when it comes to your point of view, when the diplomas are being handed over to the students and when they're equipped with proper knowledge and the practical exposure, how far can they go in the practical scenario of the global apparel sector?
Okay, so interesting question. Let me start like this. So with BCC, it's a very unique offering that we provide here. So it's not just the education that you get, it is also the holistic learning and development that you get here at BCC. So we are actually preparing you to enter into the industry. We are preparing you to enter into the corporate world. So it's not, you go through your theory and then you go into a factory, you learn everything from the hands-on approach, the basics you have to do there. And then you also go into the centers as well, which we have within the group as well. More than that, you also have this mentorship offering, which is provided by Brandix here as well, which is something that I think that is unique completely throughout here. That is, you have personal mentorship from the industry itself, from people who've been here, and you also, all your lecturers are also people who have been within the education sector and also who are professionals within the industry. So it's something very unique and very different, which the students here will obtain as well.
Right. So you mentioned particularly about the inside training when it comes to internships and the involvement with regard to practical knowledge. So if we can focus a little bit on that as well, how do you bridge the gap with traditional lectures and the practicality?
Okay, so in terms of, again, we look at, so you come into BCC. When you start, you go in through the theory, you go in through the educational approach. Apart from that, we also provide things like corporate athleticism. We provide behavioral modules. So we are actually preparing you to enter into your career. So when you join BCC, you're actually kickstarting your career into the apparel industry. It's not just about coming and doing another diploma or another educational offering here. This is something completely different because we're actually giving you that holistic approach which no other institute will offer here as well, because we are aligned with the industry and we're so close with the organization as well.
Right, so the next question goes to all of you in particular. So, what is the one advice that you have to give to a youngster who is emerging into the industry and who is actually very bit skeptical about entering into the industry, the employment sector in particular, or rather having an exposure with the education and then having a rather smoother flow into the sector? So, what is your advice when it comes to choosing one between those two paths?
What is that?
Thank you very much for that question. Okay, that got me thinking. I think the advice from me is be humble and be open. This industry has gone through changes, and this industry will go through these changes as well. Okay, right. The 2030 industry will be completely different from what we have. And what we need right now, people with that open mindset and people have willingness to learn. Unlearn, learn, and move forward. That is what I'm saying. And you need to be humble to learn from anyone to go to that level.
Right, Ms. Ganesh.
So for me, if I'm just take it from a personal point of view, I've been in this industry for a couple of years now. And something that I've learned is one thing, and that has been embedded into me since I've come in. One is to be resilient. Because this industry has gone through so many things with COVID, with the economic crisis, and then recently with the taxes coming in. We've still overcome, we've still fought back, and we've kept going throughout, no matter what happened. And the second thing I think Brandix essentially has embedded in me is to always be curious. And as a student coming in, this is something I think this industry needs you to be very, like CJ said, very open. You need to be able to absorb new things, and you need to adapt as well. And I think for me, this industry is something, I mean, apart from BCC where you can learn the whole basics here, you go into something where you actually learn something more about life.
For me, so if you look at the traditional path, probably one would wait for their results, then choose a particular education path, at least would spend another 3 years studying, and then probably look at a 6 months of internship, and then get into whatever the industry that they choose to get into. Specifically with apparel, the path that we are opening up is we are allowing students to straight away start. So we already have a batch that's already started for the last year's A-level students pending results. So the next batch, the moment we start, within 2 years, they'll be getting into the industry, and the beauty of it is, like what CJ said, they'll go through at least 6.5 months of practical on ground, both in factory setups as well as in front end, like what you all saw earlier. Right. That exposure for almost 6 months as part of their 2-year program. So when they go in, it's not just they're going in for a usual internship. So within a year, they'll be part of a permanent cadre. That's what we've seen. So it's the edge that you get between that. Personal choice, but exciting industry. So if one wants to come in, not for the faint-hearted, by the way, not for everyone, but if they are made out of that caliber, this is something quite exciting.
Right. So with that, Mr. Priyanka, one interesting fact is we live in interesting times. AI is evolving, and we have changes of job roles and new challenges coming up. So what is the message that you have to give to your youngsters entering to the apparel industry in particular with regard to those challenges, and what measures have you taken within the institution BCC to cope up with them and adapt with those changes?
Very interesting. Out there, the market constantly evolves. Honestly, things that we learn gets outdated quite often. But the benefit for us as Brandix Corporate Campus, being part of a larger parent, is that all the changes that happens out there in terms of all the technological changes you've talked about, we get a front row seat to it real time. because this is also the institution that caters to the Brandix's learning and development as well. So real time, what we do is we incorporate those things into our curricula. So whether it's AI, whether it's data analytics, whether it's virtual sampling, whether it's 3D modeling, we bring those things into our program to the extent that it happens in the industry. So that's the edge that we have being a corporate campus, because we constantly change our curriculum.
Right, an interesting fact. So you evolve with change and then you add more value additions to your course content as well. Ms. Gyasha, one information that is very important to our audience. So when are the new recruitments beginning, and what are your future plans when it comes to expanding the BCC?
Okay, so we actually have 2 intake periods for our diploma programs. One is pre-results, that is before your A-level results. So just as you complete your A-levels, you can actually enroll for the BCC diploma. And then we also have another intake starting, that is the post-results batch. So once your results are out, you can also look at applying here. Apart from that, we do also offer scholarships for students coming in right now. So this is a new mechanism that we introduced. So like Priyanka and CJ said, they were talking about having a certain caliber. So if you are resilient, if you've been had leadership roles in school, if you've been involved in sports and extracurricular activities such as debating, you should apply for these scholarships. And also we do offer scholarships on merit-based as well. So we have scholarships up to 300,000 available. That is, again, for any extracurricular activities and also your results, you are eligible for the scholarships as well.
Right. So you offer scholarships and give exposure to education and rather proper learning of the industry of apparel. Yes. So, Mr. Chamikara, when it comes to the end goal of this journey, so what are the realistic expectations one can have after completing the BCC courses and entering the industry?
One thing we consciously do is that we expose our students, especially the ADFAT program, Advanced Diploma in Fashion Apparel Textiles, to several job roles in the industry. So a lot of people don't know this, but apparel industry has several unique job roles. Okay, that can be in front end, a center specific role, just like you saw, and then maybe in the back end and the operations, or even the support system as well. So what we do is, with our industry exposure, we expose them to several job roles in the front end team as well as in the operations team. So that can be a garment tech, that can be a merchandiser, that can be a procurement merchandiser, or that can be a fabric technologist. Like that we expose. At the same time, they can choose roles from the operations, production, industrial engineering, technical team, mechanical team, like that. And if they really wish, they can be a part of the HR team, they can be a part of finance team, or even the ESG team. Okay, that's what we do. We give them a fair chance with the exposure and let them pick the role that suits their personality and profile.
Right, definitely. So you nurture them, you give them opportunities, and you let them grow and see them grow. That's an interesting fact. So with that, we hope to move on to a short commercial break. So in the next segment, we are going to discuss about how the apparel sector is evolving in the future, and of course the insights that our youngsters have to have throughout the experience. Welcome back. This is Gen XYZ, and we are at the Brandix corporate campus discussing about the evolving nature of the apparel industry and their courses, which are very, very, very interesting. So, Mr. Chamikara, one thing that I actually thought, looking at the surrounding and then looking at what you have been doing through. So one opportunity that you give to your students is the creative license to do whatever creative thing and unleash their beautiful thoughts. So when it comes to creativity, what are the spans that you have set, and what is the one advice that you want to give to the youngsters who are watching our program right now?
Thank you for asking that question. That's a wonderful one. See, younger generation is they have an idea, and I have seen that innovation, creativity, they are not afraid to let go of their free soul. Okay? And that's where we pitch our diploma in fashion design. Okay? If you look at all the students who are joining, they have a vision to own their brand. They want to do a designer wear. Okay? And that is where we help them to come up with their creativity, enhance their creativity, and go beyond their boundaries and build legacies, build brands that take out Sri Lanka and even take out the globe. Okay. So we believe in them, we support them, and we always be there like a best friend, always for them to go their goals. So we believe in creativity, we believe in passion, and we support creativity.
Right, an interesting fact, and I feel like other two guests will also agree, because when it comes to traditional scenarios, sometimes the creativity is crushed and molded into different situations, and sometimes it is very narrowed down when it comes to practical scenarios. But here at Brandix Corporate Campus, you provide that opportunity to uplift that creativity and make them think out of the box. Right, so one interesting fact that I heard from you was the specific scholarship scheme. So you not only nurture them, you not only creatively empower them, but also give scholarship opportunities to uplift their education and keep them learning. So tell us about the scholarship scheme, and also how do students who are interested in these programs apply in future?
Yeah. So Marsha, the scholarship scheme which we introduced this year, this was mainly introduced because we want the right people coming into the industry. Priyanka and Chandra spoke about getting that right caliber into the industry, because it's not for the faint-hearted, like Priyanka said. It's for people who are resilient, who can actually go that extra mile. So this scholarship scheme was introduced targeting those students. And so we have three scholarships actually that are up for grabs. One is 100% full scholarship where tuition is completely waived off. This is for someone who's been an exceptional student in school, who's had 3 A's, who's also taken part in sports, who's had leadership, a leadership position in school, as well as who's done some extra and co-curricular activities as well. Then we also have 50% or half scholarships available. Those are again for people who've done exceptionally well, again who've held leadership positions, someone with good results, and also someone who's done extra and co-curricular activities as well. And then interestingly, we also have merit-based scholarships. So this is something I think that all of us were very excited about. So we have scholarships up to 300,000 worth, and this is actually for people who have given, who have actually shown effort, who've gone apart from the academics, right? So if you're someone who's done your sports well, if you're someone who's taken part in extra co-curricular activities, that is in debating, if you've been a chorister, if you've been a guide or a scout, and even if you've taken part in extra in co-curricular activities representing your school at provincial, zonal, and going up to national, international levels, these scholarships are also available for you. So, and then apart from that, we also value your results as well. So if you had good O-level results and good A-level results, you should apply for this scholarship. So you can go through our website, you can go through our socials, or you can even give us a call on the details available on our website, and then we will obviously look at your eligibility and see if we can offer you a scholarship, because we need people who are ready to take on challenges like this industry has.
Right. interesting and very inspiring because you empower the generations to multitask and multi-skill themselves as well. So once again, thank you very much, Mr. Priyanka Dasanayaka, CEO of Brandix Corporate Campus, Ms. Kayasha Serivardana, Head of Marketing of Brandix Corporate Campus, and last but not least, Mr. Chamika Rajayakodi, Deputy General Manager of Brandix Corporate Campus, for joining with us. Amidst your busy schedules, I know that you all have a lot running around, but then thank you very much for joining us and empowering the youth of Sri Lanka to step into apparel without any hesitation or limitations. So with that, we come to the end of today's program. So when it comes to the outset, when it comes to the garments that you see day to day and you use day to day, there's a big story behind them. And today we dived into the story behind all those and had many valuable insights. So that's it from our end for today. Thank you very much for joining. This is Gen XYZ.
Looking at the stars and wishing you were them.